Only around 9% of IELTS candidates ever reach Band 8 or higher in speaking. This Band 8.5 performance is exactly what examiners are looking for, and today I'll show you why. I've helped thousands of IELTS candidates move from Band 6.5 to 8 plus by teaching them how examiners really assess fluency, grammar, and coherence. How can you organize your ideas naturally without sounding rehearsed? Let's go. Part 1. Introduction and Interview. Good morning. My name is Paul Williams. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My full name is Alexander Chen, though everyone calls me Alex. I've gone by Alex since childhood, and honestly, it just rolls off the tongue more naturally in everyday conversation.
Where are you from?
I am originally from Singapore, a vibrant city-state in Southeast Asia. It's this fascinating blend of ultra-modern skyscrapers and traditional heritage districts. What I find most striking is how we've managed to maintain our cultural identity despite rapid urbanization.
Do you enjoy using technology in your daily life?
Absolutely. Technology has become so deeply integrated into my routine that I can hardly imagine life without it. From mobile banking to food delivery apps, it's made everything remarkably convenient. That said, I do try to disconnect occasionally because constant connectivity can be mentally draining.
What technology do you find most useful?
I would have to say smartphones, but not for the obvious reasons. Beyond communication, they've essentially replaced multiple devices, my camera, GPS, notebook, and even my wallet, through digital payment systems. The versatility is what makes them indispensable rather than any single feature.
Do you think people rely too much on technology nowadays?
In many ways, yes. I've noticed people struggling with basic tasks when technology fails them. Simple things like reading a paper map or doing mental arithmetic. There's definitely a concerning dependency developing. Though I wouldn't say technology itself is the problem. It's more about finding the right balance.
Do you prefer living in the city or the countryside?
I am definitely a city person. I thrive on the energy and opportunities that urban environments provide. Having said that, I do appreciate the tranquility of rural areas and try to escape there occasionally to recharge my batteries.
What do you like most about city life?
The accessibility and diversity really appeal to me. Within a 20-minute radius, I can access world-class restaurants, cultural events, professional opportunities, and people from countless backgrounds. That level of convenience and exposure is something you simply can't replicate elsewhere.
Part 2. Cue card. Now, I'm going to give you a topic and I'd like you to talk about it for 1 to 2 minutes. You have 1 minute to prepare. You can take notes if you want. Here is your cue card. Describe a piece of technology that you find difficult to use. You should say what it is, when you tried to use it, why you found it difficult, and explain whether you eventually learned to use it or not. 1 minute for preparation is over. Please begin when you are ready.
The piece of technology that springs to mind is a 3D modeling software called Blender that I attempted to learn during the pandemic lockdown. I'd always been fascinated by animation and thought it would be the perfect time to pick up a new creative skill. I downloaded it optimistically, expecting it to be somewhat intuitive, but I was completely overwhelmed from the moment I opened the interface. The sheer number of buttons, menus, and shortcuts was absolutely staggering. Unlike consumer software that's designed to be user-friendly, Blender seemed to assume you already had professional-level knowledge. What made it particularly challenging was the learning curve. Simple tasks that should have taken minutes required following lengthy tutorials, and even then, I'd often lose track of which button combinations to press. The terminology was another barrier. Words like vertices, modifiers, and Bezier curves meant nothing to me initially. I persevered for about 3 months, dedicating an hour daily to video tutorials and practice projects. Gradually, things started clicking into place. I wouldn't say I became proficient, but I managed to create some basic 3D models that I was quite proud of. What struck me most about this experience was how humbling it was. In an age where most technology is designed to be instantly accessible, encountering something genuinely difficult was almost refreshing. It reminded me that mastery requires patience and persistence, not just intuitive interfaces. While I still struggle with advanced features, I'm glad I stuck with it because it opened my eyes to an entirely new creative medium.
Part 3. Discussion. Abstract topics. How has technology changed the way people communicate?
The transformation has been absolutely profound. We've shifted from primarily face-to-face or voice-based communication to text-heavy asynchronous interactions through messaging apps and social media. What's interesting is that this hasn't necessarily made us more connected. In some ways, it's created a paradox where we're constantly in touch but less emotionally present. The nuances that come through tone of voice and body language are often lost in digital communication.
Do you think older generations struggle more with technology?
Generally speaking, yes, though I'd challenge the assumption that it's purely age-related. I think it's more about exposure and necessity. Older people who need technology for work adapt remarkably quickly, while younger people can struggle with unfamiliar tech too. The real issue is that rapid innovation creates a moving target. Just when you've mastered one platform, everything changes. That constant adaptation is exhausting regardless of age.
Should schools teach more practical technology skills?
Absolutely, but with an important caveat. Rather than focusing on specific software that might become obsolete, schools should emphasize computational thinking and digital literacy, understanding how technology works fundamentally. Teaching students to code is valuable, but teaching them to think critically about technology, understand privacy implications, and adapt to new tools is arguably more crucial for long-term success.
How might technology affect employment in the future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I suspect we'll see significant disruption across multiple sectors, particularly in routine cognitive and physical tasks. However, history suggests that technology creates as many jobs as it eliminates. They're just different jobs. The challenge will be ensuring people can transition smoothly through retraining programs. What concerns me most isn't job loss per se, but the potential widening of inequality if technological benefits aren't distributed fairly.
Can technology help solve urban problems like traffic congestion?
To an extent, certainly. We're already seeing smart traffic management systems, ride-sharing apps, and route optimization making a tangible difference. But technology alone isn't a silver bullet. Urban planning, public transport investment, and behavioral change are equally important. Sometimes we tend to seek technological solutions to problems that are fundamentally social or political in nature.
Do you think people are losing important skills because of technology?
Undoubtedly, though I'd argue it's not entirely negative. Yes, we're losing skills like navigation without GPS or memorizing phone numbers, but we're gaining others: multitasking, digital collaboration, information synthesis. Every technological shift involves this trade-off. What worries me more is the loss of deep concentration and sustained attention. The constant stimulation from devices seems to be rewiring our brains in ways we don't fully understand yet, and that deserves serious consideration.
Carefully listen to the analysis and feedback of the responses. Starting with Part 1. Listen to how Alex describes Singapore. It's this fascinating blend of ultra-modern skyscrapers and traditional heritage districts. What I find most striking is how we've managed to maintain our cultural identity despite rapid urbanization. Why this works. Instead of just saying Singapore is modern and traditional, Alex uses sophisticated vocabulary like fascinating blend, heritage districts, and rapid urbanization. The phrase, "what I find most striking," shows personal reflection, not just description. How you can apply this. Take any simple answer and add your personal observation. Instead of "I like my city," try "what I find most striking about my city is," or "what really appeals to me is." Now notice this balanced answer about technology. That said, I do try to disconnect occasionally because constant connectivity can be mentally draining. Why this works. The discourse marker "that said" signals you're adding a contrasting point. Mentally draining is much stronger than tiring. This shows you can see both sides of an issue. How you can apply this. After giving your main answer, add "that said" or "having said that" to introduce a balancing point. Use stronger adjectives. Instead of tiring, try exhausting or draining. Look at this nuanced explanation. There's definitely a concerning dependency developing, though I wouldn't say technology itself is the problem. It's more about finding the right balance. Why this works. The phrase, though I wouldn't say, shows critical thinking. You're agreeing, but also challenging the simple answer. This is Band 9 thinking. How you can apply this. Practice adding qualifiers. Though I wouldn't say, it's more about rather than. These phrases show sophisticated reasoning. Now listen to Part 2 analysis. Alex's opening is immediately engaging. The piece of technology that springs to mind is a 3D modeling software called Blender that I attempted to learn during the pandemic lockdown. Why this works. Springs to mind is a natural idiom that native speakers use. Being specific, Blender, pandemic lockdown, makes the story believable and interesting. How you can apply this. Start with springs to mind, or that comes to mind. Always be specific with names, places, and times. Don't say a software. Say Adobe Photoshop or Microsoft Excel. Notice the emotional honesty. I downloaded it optimistically, expecting it to be somewhat intuitive, but I was completely overwhelmed from the moment I opened the interface. Why this works. The contrast between optimistically and completely overwhelmed creates drama. You're sharing real feelings, not just facts. How students can copy this. Show your emotional journey. Use contrasting emotions. Excited, disappointed, confident, nervous, hopeful, frustrated. This makes your story memorable. The best part is this reflection. In an age where most technology is designed to be instantly accessible, encountering something genuinely difficult was almost refreshing. Why this works. This goes beyond the story to make a broader observation. Almost refreshing is surprising. It shows original thinking. This is what separates Band 8.5 from Band 7. How you can apply this. After telling what happened, step back and reflect. Ask yourself, what did this experience teach me? Or, how did this change my perspective? Use phrases like, what struck me most, looking back, or, this made me realize. Now let us look at Part 3. Alex challenges the question itself by saying, generally speaking, yes, though I'd challenge the assumption that it's purely age-related. Why this works. Instead of just answering yes or no, Alex questions the premise. The phrase, I'd challenge the assumption, shows confidence and critical thinking. This is Band 9 quality. How you can apply this. Don't just accept questions at face value. Try. I'd challenge the assumption that, or, the question assumes that, but actually, this shows you're thinking deeply, not just responding mechanically. Look at this sophisticated qualification. Absolutely, but with an important caveat. Why this works. Caveat is high-level vocabulary used naturally. Starting with strong agreement, then qualifying it shows nuanced thinking. How you can apply this. Learn words like caveat, paradox, and nuance. Practice this pattern. Strong opinion plus but plus qualification. For example, definitely but with one important exception, or without a doubt, though there's a significant drawback. Notice this rhetorical device. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why this works. The idiom million-dollar question and the tag question, isn't it, show natural, confident English. It also buys you a second to think. How you can apply this. Use rhetorical questions occasionally, such as, that's the key issue, isn't it? Or, that's what everyone's wondering. But don't overuse them. Once per test is enough. The most impressive moment is this observation. Sometimes we tend to seek technological solutions to problems that are fundamentally social or political in nature. Why this works. This is meta commentary. Alex is stepping back to comment on human behavior in general. The phrase fundamentally social or political in nature is academic-level language used naturally. My advice is for you to practice making observations about human nature or society. For example, we tend to, or people tend to, or there's a general assumption that. This elevates your response from personal opinion to sociological observation. Key patterns to master for Band 8 to 9. 1. Discourse markers. Use phrases like, that said, having said that, though I wouldn't say, with an important caveat to show sophisticated thought development. 2. Personal reflection. Add phrases like, what strikes me most, what I find most interesting, looking back, to show your thinking, not just reciting. 3. Qualifying phrases. Use to an extent. In many ways, generally speaking, undoubtedly, to show nuanced thinking instead of black and white answers. 4. Challenge assumptions. Try sentences like, I'd challenge the assumption. The question assumes it's not necessarily true that to show critical thinking. 5. Advanced vocabulary. In context, don't memorize word lists. Learn phrases. For example, mentally draining, not just draining. Concerning dependency, not just dependency. Absolutely staggering, not just staggering. 6. Contrasts and paradoxes. Point out contradictions such as we're constantly in touch but less emotionally present, or creates as many jobs as it eliminates. What you should avoid. Don't sound robotic. Alex's responses feel like natural conversation, not rehearsed speeches. Practice speaking your answers out loud, not writing them. Don't use all these techniques at once. Alex uses advanced language naturally and occasionally, but not in every sentence. Pick 2 to 3 phrases per part and use them well. Don't memorize answers. The examiner can tell. Instead, memorize patterns and phrases, then adapt them to any question. The bottom line band. 8 to 9 is not about perfect grammar or big vocabulary lists. It's about showing you can think critically, express nuanced opinions, reflect on experiences, and engage naturally with complex topics. Practice these patterns until they feel natural, then trust yourself in the exam. Subscribe so you do not miss 2 videos I publish weekly. All the best in your preparation.